Hello everyone, welcome. I hope you're all keeping well. I'm popping back with another card for the YouTube channel, and this time I'm going to use one of my new releases, and it's called Flock Together. This was released on Create and Craft just over a week ago, or is it a week ago? No, it's not even a week ago yet. So it was last Friday, sort of the 6th of May, and I think they're still available on Create and Craft. And I'm going to use, excuse me, I'm going to use the Puffin. But what I want to do is create a nice simple card. I don't want to create anything too complicated. I just want the image to stand alone in its own right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use broken china and wilted violet. And I'm going to add a little bit of the broken china just to a piece of acetate, and I'm going to use the acetate as sort of my paint palette, and I'm going to spritz that with water, and I'll use that as my paint palette. And I'm just going to put a bit of water at the base of my card. So I've just added some water here, and I'm just going to pick that up, and I'm just going to add some of the broken china. I do apologise. I'm going to add some of the broken china just along here, just to sort of create some grounding. And this is just going to be a simple card. I don't want anything too complicated, and I'm just thinking about the grounding at the moment, just so that it's got a little bit of grounding. That's as much as I'm thinking about. Something for my puffing to stand on. So that's all I'm thinking about. And obviously added more colour than I needed. Now, if you've got 2 pieces of acetate, or you can work on your non-stick craft sheet. I'm trying to also think of ways that if you don't like a lot of mess, if you work on a piece of acetate, then you haven't got a lot of mess to pick up. But you can work on your non-stick craft sheet, no problem at all. So I'm now going to use the purple, and I'm going to add some of the purple just to my grounding. And this is just sort of going to be my grounding area. I've always got a little bit of a blob or something, I've noticed. And I don't want to overpower the colour. Now, what I would suggest that you do is that you let that dry naturally, personally, just because the intensity of colour would be a lot better. Now, I'm doing this, and then I've just thought, oh, I wanted some splatters. So what I'm going to do is, actually, we'll do those at the end. So it'd be perfect if you can let that dry naturally, mainly because the colour will be more intensified. And also, if you let it dry naturally, you can then decide if you want to add any more colour. I haven't got one I've prepped before because I'm making this live. So what I'm going to do is heat this, and then I'll add more colour if needs. The other thing about letting it dry naturally is, because I spritzed water on the base of the card, the colour is moving, so it's a little bit more natural, which is what I like. So we're just going to give that a dry. Just dab that with a piece of my kitchen roll. And then what I can do is I can decide if I want a little bit more colour. And what I'm going to do is just add a little bit more of the blue. just think I'd like to add a little bit more of that blue. And if you want it a little bit darker, don't add too much water to your blue, and spritz the bottom of your card with water again, or else you're going to find it's not going to move and it's not going to look as natural. So I'm just going to add a little bit more blue. If you haven't got that water, it's just going to sit in a blob, and I want it to look watery because that just seems perfect with the puffing. So let's just wipe that up. So add a little bit more water because we've just dried that if you want a little bit more intensity of colour. Plus, if you spritz the colour with water again, it adds a few splotches to the colours that we've dried. So I quite like that. And you want it a little bit watery. So I don't want this too dark down here. That's better. Just so it looks a little bit watery. And don't forget, this card is all about the puffing. It's not overpowering everything. It's all about that puffing. I'm just going to give that a thorough dry, and let's just get rid of that. I don't want anything too dark. I want it to look sort of watery. A little bit of moisture there. There we go. Let's just bend that card. So what now is I've got sort of a watery base. So that's just the base of our card. And then what I'm going to do is take the background stamp, which is the Follow Your Own Path, the background stamp that I like using. And I'm going to use just touches of this text. And what I'm going to do is take the hickory smoke, and what I didn't mention was the size of the card because I got all excited. The card is 4.5 inches by 6.5 inches, so 4.5 by 6.5, my usual size, and I've just stamped the excess off onto the craft sheet. And what I'm going to do is just add a little bit of the text just in the background, and I want it to be subtle. I don't want it to be too overpowering. So I'm using Hickory Smoke Distress Oxide ink. Just press that onto the non-stick craft sheet. And just add a little bit more stamping. Now, I'm not pressing too hard. I'm not pressing too hard with that grey. And I'm just going to... So I'm not pressing. I think I'll just use the 3rd generation just down here. Just a little bit. Very faded stamping. Let's wipe that up. Let's place that back in our packaging because then we've got it all organised. And I'm just going to give that stamping a little bit of a spritz with water, mainly because then I want that to look a little bit watery as well, just so that that text doesn't look perfect. And what I want you to do is just allow that to sit a little bit, because you want the text to run a little bit, just so it fits in with the base of our card. And then just give that a dry. Just find a dry piece of kitchen roll and just dab that card dry. It just means that text has got a few little sort of water splotches just with it, just to add to that background. And I'm just drying the card from the back just to straighten that out a little bit. And if I just bring this a little bit closer to the camera, you can see that it's got a few splotches here because I've spritzed with water. And this is a little bit watery. In real life, you can see that it's got a few runs. So it just adds to the background. Right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take our little Puffin, which I absolutely adore. I was so pleased with how this came out. Love this little Puffin. There's just something about him. He's just lovely. So just take that. And what I'm going to do is ink my Puffin. And I'm going to ink the Puffin rather than the words. I'm just going to wipe the words just so I haven't got so much of those. So I'm just going to ink my Puffin, and I'm giving it a good inking. And what I'm going to do is just use my finger, and I'm just going to wipe the P. There we go. Just a little bit. Doesn't matter if I've got a little bit of it, but I just want it to be subtle. So I'm just wiping the numbers as well, just so I've mainly got the Puffin on there. Right. And what I'm going to do is just stamp my Puffin just onto, have I got a little bit, oops, don't know whether I've got a little bit of ink on there as well. And what I'm going to do is just stamp my Puffin just here, and just allow that ink to sit on there. So what it'll be is we've got a base at the bottom, and it will appear like the Puffin is standing on there, just so that it's got a base to stand on. Just allow that ink to sit, just because we've added other layers of things as well. So just allow that Puffin to sit, and then we can just lift and curl our acrylic block. And there we've got our little Puffin. And what I like is we've got a little bit of the text in the Puffin, although some of that will disappear when we add some of the colour, because we're going to add a little bit of colour. Right, where have they gone? Inktense, not Inktense, Prismacolor. Do you know, with the pencils that I've got so many pencils that I forget the name of different things, but I just want to add a bit of colour. Let me just, right, I've just got my Prismacolor pencils, and what I'm doing is I'm just finding sort of an orange colour. I want a little bit of orange, and then have we got a little bit of the purple colour? And I think we'll just, do we want a darker orange? Slightly darker. So what I'm going to do is just add some colour just to his beak. So what we've got is Prismacolor Orange, PC918, and I may use Prismacolor Vermilion Clair, PC921. And what I'm going to do is just add a little bit of colour just to his beak. I'm going to leave a little bit of white, just, and I know there's a little bit of orange here. So I'm just going to add a little bit of orange there as well, just to add, and then we're going to add a little bit of orange just to his, just to that, to those feet. And I'm just using my Prismacolors. And what I'm going to do is add a touch of that darker that darker colour, just so it's got a little bit of darkness. And what I might do is I'll just colour it all actually, and then I can add a little bit of paint or gel pen just to add a little touch of white if I want. So just add a little bit of darkness there, a little bit more darkness to his feet. Just giving him a little bit of colour, and I've only shaded here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of watercolour to him as well. I'm not going to use the purple Prismacolor pencil. I'll add some white touches just to spit it out. I'll add some white touches to the beak and the feet when I've finished. Might need just a little bit of touch of colour. No, we can leave that. Do you like how I talk to myself? Right, what I'm going to do now is just take a little touch of the wilted violet, little touch, and I sort of want this to, you know, to be a little bit of an arty puffing. I'm just going to add a little bit of the purple to my brush, and I'm just going to add a little little touches just of the purple just here and there, just to my puffing, just to give him a touch of colour. Now he's meant to be an artistic puffing. I know the body is normally white, but I'm just adding some touches of that purple just to add a little touch, not much, please don't add much. And then what you're going to do, let's add a little bit more colour to the acetate so it's a little bit darker. You're going to pick up, and then what you're going to do is add a few splatters to your background. Add a few of those splatters to your background. So just take your time and add a few splatters. Just wipe your area, and then what I'm going to do is then take the broken china, add some water, and I'm just going to clean my brush just so that we've got rid of that purple and so that I've definitely got the blue. And I'm just going to add a little few touches of blue just so it runs in to the purple, not too much. And I just think I'll add a little bit more just underneath there. That's it. So I've just added a little tiny bit of colour just so that the puffing has got a little bit of colour. Okay, now you don't want to add too much, and then I'm going to spritz with water just so that it's a little bit more watery on there. And I'm just going to allow that colour, especially on his body, just to move a little bit. Just give it a few seconds just to physically move. Because it's meant to add to sort of the watery feel. And you don't want too much colour to that puffing. So once you've spritzed it a little bit and the colour's lightened, just give that a dry. Now I just want you to give it a thorough dry, and then we'll do some splatters with blue. But just take your time. Give it a thorough dry, and then dry from the back. That's it. We'll add our white patches later. And then what I'm going to do is just clean my brush just so that I haven't got that blue. And what I'm going to do is take some of the hickory smoke. Take a little bit of that hickory smoke. Just spritz that with water. Sort of spritz half so you've got some lighter watery areas and some dark, so you can pick up a little bit of that dark. I'm just going to add a little bit of shading just around my puffin. I'm just going to shade a little bit. Now I know I normally use my Inktense pencil, but I want this to be a little bit more delicate, not quite as harsh. I hope that makes sense. So just a little bit more gentle. I don't want it to be too much. And what will happen is you'll also activate the text that we did. You'll sort of activate that ink. So you just want to touch. So just go around and just add a touch of shading just to your puffing. Just take your time. Now I'm just going to add a little bit more darkness. Pick up that, and I'm just going to add a little bit of the grey just to the puffing here, just so it's got a little bit of grey on the body, a little bit more shading. Let's pick up a little bit more, just so it's a little bit darker. Let's blend that out. Just so it's a little bit darker over there. Let me just prick that up just so that you can see a little bit of shading around there. We'll just give that a wipe. I want to add some of the blue splatters just to my background. Nobody needed that much ink for splatters, but there you go. So I'm just going to pick up the blue, and then I'm going to add some of the blue. So pick up the blue splatters. Make sure that you get some in the body as well. There we go. And you do end up with it everywhere. I just thought I'd add that point, that you do end up with splatters absolutely everywhere. I think that's paint actually. Yeah, I've got paint. There we go. So just wipe your splatters up. And then just give that a dry. And I want this card to be all about the puffing. So it's important that we just showcase the puffing, and he takes centre stage. There we go. Just now he will go on a black mat, but what I want to do is just grab a yellow pencil, just grab a yellow Prisma, proper yellow, just grab that yellow Prisma, and I think I'm just going to add a little bit of yellow just to the eye, just so it stands out a little bit. Maybe a little bit of yellow just to the body. I'm just lightly scribbling. I'm not adding, it just gives a little bit of light to the body, but I'm not adding much at all. What I'm going to do then is, let's see if our gel pen will just add a little white mark there, little touch of white on his feet, and let's make that a little bit whiter. There we go. Just so we add those touches of white just to his beak, and the little bit of yellow just adds a highlight. And then let's add some splatters of white that I want to go on his body. There we go. And let's just add just so he's got little touches of white splatters just on his body, just to add to that feel. And then what I'm going to do, where's my micron pen? Where I've added the white, just want to just emphasize his eye a little bit more. That's better. So you can see he looks lovely just on that background. Right, let's grab our stamps again. Let's put the puffing back. And then we're going to take the puffing text. Now it's attached to the swan text. So I'm just going to put that. This is the only reason is because Tracy wants to cram as much as possible into the stamps. And if I left a gap, I wouldn't fit that puffing stamp in. So I'm trying my utmost to fit as much in as possible. Right. So take the puffing. There we go. Let's ink that in black. And it's lovely because this is a 1-layer card, it's sort of got no 3D layers, but it doesn't always have to have 3D layers. Just add that puff in there. Now I've got some moisture in that card, so I'm just going to give it time just to soak in, even though it's just a fine sentiment. There we go, perfect. And I just love how it just isn't too much. What I'm going to do then is add a few tiny black splatters. Why does the pen that you use never... That's it. You don't want too many. You don't want too many black splatters. So what I've aimed is for a few. I've aimed for a few down here and a few up here. So don't aim for too many. And I'll show you. Just so that you've got a little few here and a few here. It's just delicate. It's the splatters that are adding the atmosphere of the piece. Just so you can see that. Absolutely love it. Just love the one layer card. I just think it's beautiful. And I'm going to add it to a black mat and then decide if I need a touch more black stamping. So I'm going to add that to the black mat. And it's already speaking to me. My cards actually speak to me, believe it or not. They let me know when they're finished and whether I need to add any more bits and pieces or not. So they do speak to me, you know. So we're just going to stand up. And as always, you know, I say to you, don't put your mat and layers on until your splatters are dry. You know, Tracy pushes her luck a little bit. And obviously I've added moisture to this card. So what it wants to do is work against you. So you need to go around just reiterating, and the warmth from your hand will just get that adhesive sticking and grabbing a hold. But you just need to sort of remind your card. Now just allow that. Just allow the adhesive just to grab a hold. The warmth from my finger just gets that to give it a proper adhesion. I just think that's lovely, just in its own right. I don't actually think I necessarily need too much else. What I think I do need, let's just place this. I know what we need. Right. On the Puffin stamp, you've got these little numbers. And what I'm going to do is just add a touch of them. So on the Puffin, let me show you. There's some tiny little numbers at the top. And what I'm going to do is just place them. Oh, yes, yes. Because I've got this black here, I've just added a touch of the black there to give me a little bit of balance. That's all it needs. So let's just just perfect. So what I'm going to do then is add that to a 5" by 7" card blank. Let's make sure that my hands are clean, and we'll add that to a 5" by 7" card blank. And what I want you to do is then cut another piece 4.5 inches by 6.5 inches and just add yourself a puffing inside. Just I always stand up. It just seems a lot easier if I stand up, just to get that. I've still got a bit of black on my finger there, just to get that right. And you know, I think that's enough for the card. I just love that touch of black there. Just balances it out for me. Really does balance it out. And in real life, the puffin actually looks 3D. So I hope you've enjoyed that little card. Don't forget to add to the inside of your card. I don't think I've got a piece cut, but if you cut another piece 4.5 by 6.5 and add the puffing to the inside of your card, I just love that. So I hope you've enjoyed that, and I shall see you all soon. Love to all. Bye for now.